This is Speaking with the Enemy on the Ticats Audio Network. Here is Louis Butko.
Yes, the show Speaking with the Enemy this week. These guys again, Toronto Argonauts, Mike Hogan's the play-by-play voice. And, these guys again, Hoagie. That's probably what both these teams are thinking right now.
Who do you think is more sick of one another at this point? The DBs and receivers, the linemen, the media, the fans, the coaches, or the staff?
I think the fans are always at each other. I think that's what makes this rivalry great. The media, never, ever. I mean, you and Nate are my enemies, but the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And I don't know how that saying goes, but I think somewhere in there, that makes you my friend, Hoagie, unfortunately for you. But you mentioned the DBs, you mentioned the receivers, and really talked about it with Dylan Wynn today. The Argos second half adjustments has been the difference in these three games, without a doubt. They are a second half team. What have they been doing? What's Dinwiddie been saying at half that's been rallying the troops and seeing a different team, it seems like, in the second half here?
Well, if I knew, I wouldn't tell you.
Damn, so close. I was
nice
so close.
Try, though. I don't know if it's so much like you could tell they were doing some things schematically different. We noticed on the broadcast they seemed to be running more crosses offensively, and I don't know if they just weren't ready for that or if they were just a simple thing of execution. The receivers were getting open in the second half. I didn't think they did a great job of that in the first half. I still maintain that when McLeod Bethel-Thompson is in a rhythm, he's as good as anybody in the league. And you guys have seen that on more than one occasion. Maybe the best second or one half of football I've ever seen a quarterback have in, say, the last decade was the game he had at Tim Hortons Field last year, where he threw for over 300 in the second half. Mm-hmm. And he just didn't, I think he missed two passes in the entire half. One was probably a drop. So I would think what the Ticats need to do is get him out of that rhythm. What the Argos have to do is get him in that rhythm. And in the second half, he was in the rhythm. In the first half, he wasn't. So how did he get there? I don't know. He doesn't know. I've asked him about it. He has no idea. It just seems to happen. And when they run tempo and when they seem to have a little giddy up in their step, I think Mac's as good as anybody.
And I think that's, maybe it's because I'm looking at it through black and gold glasses. Maybe it's just the fact that McLeod Bethel-Thompson hasn't been around that long, but we've all been waiting for him to be that guy. He feels like someone, I can't believe I'm saying this, he feels like someone who doesn't get the respect he deserves. But here's my theory on that. And the reason I think that is we're still waiting, for the most part, to see McLeod play 60 minutes. Or the offense under McLeod is probably a more fair way to say that. The offense under McLeod to play 60 minutes. Because you see the spurts and you go, oh my God. And then you see times when the offense can't move the ball at all. Would the offense have 29 yards passing after the first quarter last Friday? Yeah. And then away he goes. I mean, getting booed off the field at BMO in the first half and then coming back and doing what he does. I mean, but to be fourth all time in passing yards in franchise history, I mean, that's not an insignificant statistic to roll your eyes at. But to your point,
this is the first year he's been the starter.
Yeah.
Right, look at it that way. It was Ricky Ray, then it was James Franklin, and then last year it was Nick Arbuckle, and now finally in the offseason they flipped the keys to the car to McLeod and said, "You drive." Yeah, for the first time.
Well, even that, I had Nate on last week, and I was like, "So how long's the leash before we see Chad Kelly?" And I'm sure people were asking that question in the first half of last week's game before MBT turned it on. I think I get the sense that the Argos have to be looking at this one like a heavyweight fight, right? Yeah, they delivered the first blow. They took a bit of a punch in the mouth. They knocked the Ticats back. Are they looking at this as an opportunity to really – last time they'll see the Ticats this season, unless they meet in the postseason. Are they looking at this as the knockout punch, do you think?
It essentially can be, maybe not mathematically, but if it should the Argos win and then go 500 the rest of the season after a win on Monday, the Ticats would have to run the table. They'd have to go 6-0 to finish ahead of the Argos. So it might not be, the knockout punch But if I could mix the metaphors, the Ticats would be a long way in the rearview mirror, because the Argos would still have a game in hand and be 6 points up. So that's a lot to ask with the Ticats having, they have 6 games left at the end of this game.
Jamal Peters, the CFL's top performer this past week. I'm sure Dane Evans was waking up in the middle of the night with Jamal Peters' nightmares this week, because he really had himself a game. And I'm sure he's somebody you've been watching for a while and has been waiting to have that big game. But I mean, is that his arrival for the rest of the league? Did he just put the rest of the league's quarterback on notice?
I would think so, for the fans and media anyways. I think coaching staffs are well aware of Jamal Peters, who came and played well last year. I think he would have had a run at the NFL, but he blew out his knee in college and ended up here last year. And guess what? Blew out his knee again and missed most of the season last year. It's a smaller season, but was able to get back for the playoffs. So he's healthy again. And Josh Bell, the defensive backs coach, loves him. And I asked Josh, I did a story on Jamal a month or so ago. So what do you like the most about him? And he goes, he's big. Because he's 6'3", he's like 210, and I think he can tie his shoes without bending over. His arms are so long. Like, he has everything you want in a DB, and what he has now is a year of study, where he hit the books hard in the offseason because he wanted the brain to catch up to the body with all of the nuances of the CFL. And, of the 3 picks a week ago, the first one was him studying the play and knowing what was coming. He actually waved off Maurice Carnell and said, you take the deep guy, and he kind of had both front and back and was able to react in time to either one. Second one, I don't know what Dane was thinking. I don't know if he's trying to get the ball out of bounds. It was a throw that should have never been made. He's trying to make a play. I get that. And then the third one, I think it was just a smart play by Peters, who baited Evans and jumped it at full speed. That's film room, right? He knew the play. Yeah. He'd have to make that aggressive a jump from that point in the field. So the brain is caught up to the body, and if there's a better DB in the league right now, I don't know who it is, but yeah, I think you're right that maybe the 3 picks was the way that the rest of the league is starting to go, oh, that guy's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, the CFL top performer, 3 interceptions, one of them for a touchdown. You're going to get some people's attention, especially, fans. You mentioned the DBs, the receivers for the Argos. Again, Markeith Amble's probably a name that people aren't really familiar with, but definitely heard of him as of last week. Curly Gittens Jr. is continuing to put up strong numbers. Speedy B is an impact. I mean, back to the point about Mac here, McLeod Bethel-Thompson. I mean, he seems to be building chemistry with these guys by the game, by the practice, by the snap.
He doesn't have just one guy to kind of acclimatize himself to, because they run right across the receivers group. You mentioned Markeith Ambles, and he came in here with little to no fanfare, and he led Calgary in catches last year. Like, that's no small. I know it was a small season, and they had a couple guys injured, but he still led Calgary in catches last year. You mentioned Brandon Banks. He made a couple of plays offensively with the end around, and then sort of that crossing route again that we talked about on the next play, I think. Curly Gittens Jr., they haven't needed him the last couple of games. He really hasn't been targeted much. So I don't know if maybe he's the go-to guy this week as they try to mix things up. And then, we talk about Tavares Daniels, who made that remarkable catch in the corner at the pylon last year, that 360 spinorama. We haven't even talked about him. So, I mean, it's a good 4-pack of receivers. And DeMonte Coxey, I thought, the new guy from Memphis, did not look out of place last year. He had one deep ball, especially, that he looked pretty good on. So it's a pretty good group. And, there's still injuries. Eric Rogers is hurt. Cam Phillips is hurt. Joan Brescison is just coming back. So it's a pretty deep receiving group.
What do you think the Argos need to do to avoid a letdown? Because they are coming off a big win. They are first in the East. You've been to Tim Hortons Field. It's sold out. It's going to be an atmosphere. What do they need to do to avoid coming out of this and just looking around being like, oh, damn, the Ticats punched us in the mouth?
Treat it like a playoff game.
Yeah.
it's been a dead zone trying to go into Tim Hortons Field. What's it been, 2012? Since the Argos won in there, and there was no game in 2013 because the league thought, hey, let's do a Ticats Lions game on Labor Day. That'll be neat. But it's just been the one time since 2012 where, the Argos haven't had to get in the bus or in the cars after the game and go, that didn't go so well. And the point differential in a lot of those games has just been brutal. So I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the full house, if it's the atmosphere, if it's the extra hype around town in Hamilton, because, the old joke is this is like the Grey Cup for a lot of fans. And you know what it's like. You'll get the diehards are there every week, but for a lot of casual fans who, for different circumstances, may only be able to get to one game a year, this is the one they're going to. They may think Danny McManus is still the quarterback, but they know the Argos suck, and they're going to go out on Labor Day. And, that's what makes this game great. Is because that tradition has gone on. It's a sellout already a few days before kickoff, and I think that's fantastic. And let's bring it on. And when the Argos run through that tunnel on Monday, they better have the same intensity as the Ticats because they're going to bring it. So the challenge is you better bring it in the first half because don't expect those second half miracles to happen every week.
So here you go. My classic speaking with the enemy question. The Argos will win this game if what?
They changed the game till Sunday or Tuesday, so we don't have to play it on Labor Day.
They've never won, by the way. You mentioned that they've never won at Tim Hortons Field.
No.
So this building behind me, since it is open, they've never won on Labor Day.
Yeah. So maybe the BD3 thing, but I would think that if Tim Hortons Field provides the Argos with as many turnovers as the Ticats did at BMO Field last week, it shouldn't be a problem, but I don't expect the Ticats to turn it over 6 times. So, me, I'm boring. I'm all about turnovers and penalties. If I have to say something else, I will say if they can continue to get the kind of pressure they did last week, where it didn't always result in a sack, but Shane Ray had pressure. He had a sack in his back pocket, which forced Evans to throw that pick. Hendricks in the middle, Oakman in the middle. If they can get that kind of pressure that they had last week, I think that'll go a long way for the Argos.
The Ticats and Argos played the Labor Day Classic last year, as they normally did. It was the Ticats' first game back at Tim Hortons Field since the pandemic. But how about this? Our friend Steve Milton pointed it out. They played each other 4 times last season, from September 6th to November 12th. That's in the regular season. They played each other in the postseason, so that's 5 games. They played each other in Guelph in the preseason. That's 6 games. They played each other 4 times. This will be the 4th time they've seen each other this season. We are up to, count them if I'm right, 10 games in a calendar year.
That's
between
amazing.
These 2 teams. 10 games in a calendar year. I mean, it's the CFL. Dylan Wynn said it. There's only 9 teams, but when I say, are we sick of each other yet, Hoagie? It's as close to impossible as being sick of you, but this is pretty darn close.
Let's not do this again until East final.
At least, yes, please.
No, there are pros and there are cons, but quite frankly, I'll be really happy to prep a game that doesn't involve the Ticats.
The feeling, I'm sure, is mutual. Hoagie, I'm looking forward to seeing you in person at Tim Hortons Field on Monday. Can't wait to see you then. Thanks for doing this as always, buddy.
Labor Day is always one of the highlights in the calendar, and I can't wait to get there.
And my thanks to Mike Hogan for joining me today on Speaking with the Enemy, which is brought to you by Red Tag. RedTag.ca Back to the Beach sale is now on. Extend the summer heat and start planning for your fall and winter beach vacation now. Book today at redtag.ca. All right, that'll do it for us today on Speaking with the Enemy. You can catch a brand new one as part of the Tiger Cats pregame presented by Journey Rewards. That's Monday, Labor Day Classic. Hope you'll just see you there. From all of us here at the Ticats Audio Network, I'm Louis Butko. Hoping you have a great day.
Monday, Tim Hortons Field. WeatherTech is pleased to present Tim Hicks. This year's Labor Day Classic will feature a special halftime concert performance featuring award-winning country artist Tim Hicks. Presented by WeatherTech, Tim Hicks. time on Labor Day in the Hammer.